So cool. Yeah, free workshop, Google Ads offline conversion tracking with Zapier. That's what we have for today. I brought a cool agenda, I think. Please use the chat for all questions. So don't use the chat, use the Q&A feature, please. You should find it somewhere around the Google Meet interface. And if you can't find it, then maybe just quickly Google it, then you will probably find it. And then afterwards also, otherwise we will have the option, if you raise your hand, that I can make you a participant and that you can ask the question then. So yeah, again, agenda for this workshop, we have 6 points on the agenda. First, why offline conversion tracking, then requirements to do offline conversion tracking, enhanced conversions for leads, offline conversion tracking via Zapier based on Google Sheets, and offline conversion tracking based on a CRM, like in the two examples I brought, Pipedrive and HubSpot, and a Q&A session, obviously. So yeah, why offline conversion tracking? I found it important to bring this on because I think it's important to understand actually why are we doing this, because it might seem otherwise like a shiny object or some technical stuff that we're deep diving into. But what I found interesting before I prepped this talk is actually that offline conversion tracking is almost old school. So I wasn't aware when it came to life, but actually I found this article on Search Engine Land, which is from 2013, where Google Ads was still called Google AdWords, and offline conversion actually was introduced back then. So it's over 10 years old, which is quite some time, but just the right time to get onto it now if you haven't yet. Yes, so why do we actually care about offline conversion tracking? I brought this very simple chart to illustrate the idea behind it. So basically, if you generate leads on your website, imagine you generate 100 leads, but not all of those leads are qualified. So some just have some sort of interest, others are ready to buy. And from those 100 leads generated on the website, you might be able to send, let's say, 40 offers. So your actual sales process could be different. It might not involve sending offers, but having discovery calls or whatever. But let's imagine for this case that you have 100 leads generated and 40 offers sent. And from those 40 offers, you actually close 10 deals. So what you see already is that not all leads are created equal. And when we just look into Google Ads onto the website leads, we miss a very important part about the qualified leads and the deals. So this is why I want to introduce those two terms. So website leads is a classic term, everybody knows it, but we will in the following presentation also talk about qualified leads and deals. And it's important to understand that a qualified lead has no strict definition. It could be an offer sender, it could be that a positive call has happened. So it's up to you how you define it. But those are basically the terms that we will use. And using offline conversion tracking, so you might think, okay, but I'm generating leads in Google Ads and I push them to my CRM or however, and I know that, for example, I have a quota of 40% of the leads are offers, and then of that 25% are deals. But what's very important is that you want more transparency. So basically you want to be able to answer the question, which campaigns, keywords, ads, or queries actually drive leads, but then also drive qualified leads and drive deals. Because it's not primarily about some sort of fancy algorithm optimization, but it's about the basic question, how should I allocate my budget? And I will show you an example about this in a second, but I just want to make this point clear again. First, it's not about giving the algorithm more data to optimize or to go into the campaigns and change the optimization to another conversion action, but to make better decision around your budget allocation, about your ad optimization and all of that. So to give you a good example, maybe that makes it a little bit more easy to understand. We have two campaigns here. So basically we have campaign A, which is 100 leads generated on the website. Then you have 20 offers sent. Then you have 5 deals closed. I don't know if it's a good quota for you, but let's just imagine this is campaign A. And then campaign B, we have 80 leads generated on your website, and we have 40 offers sent and 10 deals closed. And if you wouldn't use offline conversion tracking, of course, you could follow this through your CRM, but basically you wouldn't be able to understand where the actual offers and the deals come from. And if you look at it, if you would just look at the website leads, you would actually probably shift more budget towards campaign A, because campaign B brings 20% less website leads. But if you look at the next stages, the qualified lead and the deal stage, you see that eventually you get two times, like double the deals from campaign B. So in this particular case, although the CPL might be worse in campaign B, it makes a lot more sense to focus your optimization efforts, to focus your budget on campaign B. So this is it for why offline conversion tracking. So I hope you got a good idea about why it makes sense to think about it. Since you're in the call, you've already made the decision that it's a good thing to think about a little bit more and to dive deeper into it. So let's then go to the next chapter, which is requirements to do offline conversion tracking. Because when I speak to people about this topic, I often feel like there are a lot of misconceptions, that it's very, very technical, very hard, very complicated. And of course, there are some technical aspects, and it's not a one-click solution, but still it's not so complicated if you break it into the individual parts that are needed. So then let's get to it. The first thing you need to do offline conversion tracking is you have to capture the Google Click ID on your website or landing page, plus send first-party data to Google for enhanced conversions for leads. We will cover enhanced conversions for leads later on, and some of you that might be more into the topic already might think, hey, but Google Click ID, it's nice, but there's GBraid and WeBraid. And yes, that's all correct. But for this example, we want to keep it simple. We want to keep it to Google Click ID because, and this is very important, to this date in Zapier, you can't import offline conversions with GBraid or WeBraid. It's possible over the Google Ads API, but this is far too complicated for this session, for this context we have here. So for simplicity reasons, we keep it with the Google Click ID. So first, capture Google Click ID on your website or landing page and send first-party data to Google for enhanced conversions for leads. Second, send and store the lead with the Google Click ID in a CRM system. CRM system could also be Google Sheets, so you don't have to use Pipedrive or HubSpot. It's totally fine also to use Google Sheets, which we will also cover in a second, but this is important. So it might seem trivial, but you need to send this lead and to store it with the Google Click ID in some sort of CRM system. And the third part is you have to trigger a conversion after a CRM update. So in some way, if you have the deal, have the lead in your CRM system and something happens, for example, you send an offer or you have a positive call and you change the status, however you do it, you have to trigger a conversion, which is why we use Zapier, obviously, also. And you have to send this conversion to Google Ads as you would send a conversion, for example, from the Google Tag Manager when a certain trigger happens, like thank you page reached or a lead submitted. It's probably too simple, but I wanted to have this in here for you just for the sake of completeness. But obviously, you also have to create new conversion actions in your Google Ads account to use this. And when you create offline conversion tracking actions, you have to use the import kind of conversions. And I screenshot this for you because this is how I do it, and it's the most simple way. You just use import, you go to CRMs, files, or other data sources, you use track conversions from clicks, and then you just say skip this step and set up a data source later, because otherwise you would have to connect Zapier right away, but you can do this afterwards. So this is not necessary in this step, but you have to create a conversion action for qualified lead and also for the deal, which is in the Google Ads definition, a converted lead. So this is also important because you have to send the conversion action somewhere, and there has to be like an endpoint in Google Ads where the conversion can be received. Then let's look a little bit more into capturing the Google Click ID. So ideally, you have a landing page builder, content management system, CMS, or some sort of form tool that automatically captures the Google Click ID for you. Because then a lot of technical, let's say, difficulties or challenges are gone. But I guess most of you, like, since the space is very diverse, like there's WordPress websites, Webflow websites, there's even people using Shopify for lead generation and all of that. This is why I will cover certain aspects about it and how you can capture the Google Click ID. But just if you think about like, okay, I want to maybe start with Google Ads or maybe set up Google Ads campaigns for a new client, just keep in mind that if you want to use offline conversion tracking to make your life as easy as possible, it is ideal to have some sort of landing page builder, CMS, or form that automatically captures the GCLID for you, because then less complexity for you in the operation. So I brought 2 recommendations for you. It's tools that we use also at our agency at Radyant. This is why I can recommend them 100%. We use them for different clients and we are very happy with it. So first landing page builder recommendation is OnePage. It's a German tool, yes, but still, like, there are also good like online marketing solutions from Germany. It's not everything coming from the US. But just to keep this very short, it's good for like OnePage.io, it's good for landing pages and more complex sites also. What is very cool is you have a lot of templates. Also, you have a native integration to Zapier plus webhooks. So you can either directly connect Zapier, or if a lead, for example, is generated on your landing page, you can trigger a webhook, which basically is just sending the lead data to a URL in Zapier to then use it for steps, but the webhook is the trigger. And also, as I pointed out the slide before, OnePage natively captures the Google Click ID and also other query strings like the UTM parameters, etc., which is a nice add-on. But this reduces complexity for us and yeah, makes it very handy for offline conversion tracking. Next recommendation is Perspective Funnels. It's also a German tool. So I'm holding the flag up here for the German internet. It's good for landing pages and mobile funnels. So it's a little bit more mobile focused, also has a lot of templates. And also here, like the 2 points I made earlier for OnePage.io, native integration to Zapier plus webhooks, and also natively captures the Google Click ID and other query strings. So I can't cover the process for all content management systems on how you can capture the Google Click ID, but since I know that it's like not really, so I wouldn't feel happy if somebody just recommends 2 tools to me and I'm like, okay, but I don't want to use them, or I have some other tools that I already use. This is why I want to show you 2 examples for Webflow and WordPress on how you can capture the Google Click ID and the exact steps needed. And even if these exact steps do not apply for you, you will get a good idea of how this works and what is necessary. And you can apply it also to different other like systems, and you get a better understanding of what you have to search for if you want to apply it to your system as well. So let's start with Webflow. So step number 1 is, if we have a form in Webflow, we need to add a hidden field as a code embed into the form. I have this screenshot for you, since you will also get access to the slides. You don't have to take a screenshot now for you. You will also have access to the recording afterwards. But it's a very simple field, just a hidden field that has a certain class, a certain name, so we can address it afterwards from the Google Tag Manager. Second step is we have to enable the linking on all page URLs in the conversion linker tag in Google Tag Manager, because then the Google Click ID is passed on for every URL that somebody visits on your page. Otherwise, if your form is not on the landing page, like if you would use a website, for example, with multiple pages, then the Google Click ID could get lost. You would have to like set up complicated stuff with first-party cookies. You don't want to do this. So enable linking on all page URLs is second step. Third step, add a URL variable to use the Google Click ID value. So you need this variable to tell the Google Tag Manager that it should extract the value of the Google Click ID from the URL to then use it for this step where we have a custom HTML tag to pass the Google Click ID value to the hidden field we have set up earlier. So basically, you see the connection now. We have a hidden field, and then we capture the Google Click ID value, and then we just pass this value into the hidden field. So we are then able to, in the last step, use Zapier to send the lead to a CRM of our choice. Like you would use the trigger send Webflow form data or new Webflow form submission, and then you can send it to Google Sheets, you can send it to HubSpot, you can send it to Pipedrive. You could also send it to every other tool, but those are the 3 tools we will cover in this sessions and we will take a closer look at. But this is basically it. Those are the 5 steps needed for Webflow. And for WordPress, I took a deeper look at Contact Form 7. Everybody that uses WordPress knows that it's like you have tons of form plugins. So I just used Contact Form 7 because I think besides Ninja Forms, it's the most used form plugin in WordPress. Here also same principle, basically. You add a hidden field or hidden fields to Contact Form 7. You have a screenshot here. It's from a client's website of ours where we have those small fields here at the bottom left. Yeah, hidden GCLID default get. You can also look up the Contact Form 7 documentation about how to use these hidden fields. Then second, same step as for Webflow, enable linking on all page URLs on the conversion linker in Google Tag Manager. Then third, also the same at the URL variable to use GCLID value. And then fourth, if you use Contact Form 7, this is quite cool. You just have to install this free plugin, Contact Form 7 to Webhook, because then, since we have already set up the hidden field, which will automatically, so we don't need another step where we send like the GCLID value to a hidden field, the hidden field inside Contact Form 7 will take care of that automatically. And then we can use this plugin to send the lead data. So every time somebody fills out the lead form, send this to a webhook endpoint, and we will use a Zapier app and Zapier webhook endpoint, obviously here. And then we can use Zapier to send the lead to the CRM of our choice. Again, in this particular example, so it's a live example we have running currently, we just send it to Google Sheets, but you could also send it to Pipedrive, to HubSpot, or to wherever you want it to be. Yes, so then let's go to the next chapter, which is enhanced conversions for leads. So enhanced conversions for leads is a topic where there are a lot of rumors, a lot of confusion, a lot of people where I feel like they understand the basic principle, but they don't really know how to use it effectively. So just as an introduction, so the whole idea of enhanced conversions for leads, and I will reference it with these EC4L just for abbreviation. The whole idea is that you do not need to capture the Google Click ID anymore. So Google has come up with this smart principle where they basically have 5 steps. They say a user clicks on an ad, arrives on your site, then they browse on your site and read about your stuff. Then they fill out a form and you send the information from the form, so basically the email address, but it could also be the phone number, to Google. Google can check this information, like, and store it. You store the lead information in your CRM as like with every other offline conversion tracking setup also. And then the last part is when the lead converts, you just send, you don't have a Google Click ID or something, you just send the conversion action back to Google Ads with the email address, for example, or the phone number as an identifier. And it just Google basically matches and checks, oh, did I get a form submission for this email or with this phone number? Ah, yes, I got it. Okay, then I can process this offline conversion action. So in theory, it's a very smart concept, but the problem is if you only rely on enhanced conversions for leads, you will lose lots of data. And this is a screenshot from a very large account we manage with around 500K monthly ad spend. We basically did a test where we set up 2 converted lead actions to just see the difference if we only send offline conversions with email, or if we send offline conversions with Google Click ID, and if a Google Click ID is not present, then also with email. So basically, the first action, lead with conversion Salesforce, is all offline conversions with a Google Click ID, and if Google Click ID is not present, with email sent to it. And the second is so all conversions are also triggered, but without the Google Click ID, just with using the email. And what we see is that only about 67% of the offline conversions are matched if we just have the email without the Google Click ID. And this is a problem if you want to effectively use offline conversion tracking. So this is why you should not only rely on this, even though it sounds like a smart concept and it's a good idea, and Google has done a good job with it if it's like hard to capture the Google Click ID. But what you can take from this is, yes, you should always set up enhanced conversions for leads as a backup method, because if you do not have a Google Click ID, you want to still use it, because if you don't have a Google Click ID, a 67% chance, taken from this account of ours, to match a conversion is better than sending nothing. So if you don't have a Google Click ID, then still send a conversion action and do all the prep work for enhanced conversions for leads, but don't just rely on enhanced conversions for leads. And this is like the theory, the basic principle, but I don't want to just like you hanging with this, because I know that it's like the critical part are those 2. Like especially, okay, how do I actually do it? Like how do I send the information to Google with the hashed information, so that Google has the data to actually match the offline conversion then afterwards? And so if you use the Google Tag Manager, and I will just cover this for the Google Tag Manager, you'll probably have a tag or multiple tags where you use the Google Ads conversion tracking tag. And then ideally, I would strongly recommend you also use this include user provided data from your website, which is basically enhanced conversions. So sending the hashed email, for example, or phone number to Google, especially useful for cross-device conversions where the cookie is not present on the other device, but Google can match the conversion based on the user account. So if you use this, and I have seen this also by very, very smart people in the PPC space, that they have thought that this, like to have this set up, like the enhanced conversions, it is enough to also use enhanced conversions for leads. But the problem is this is not enough. You have to do something else, and it's not complicated, but you just have to know that you have to do it. And it's actually this little action here, the Google Ads user provided data event that you have to use. It sounds and seems stupid and unnecessary, and in some way it is, but still you have to use this to actually use enhanced conversions for leads. So you have to trigger a standalone Google Ads user provided data event, and the trigger can be the same as for the conversion tag, and basically also all the configuration is merely the same. So you just have the conversion ID and you have the user provided data variable, but besides that, you don't have anything else. But you need this. If you don't have this, you can't import the data. So you can import the data, but Google won't process anything. So if you then send offline conversions just with email or phone number, nothing will happen. So we have learned this like by heart, because it didn't work for us. And then we found out what the issue was. Then we tested it. And this is why I want to share this with you. So yeah, this was enhanced conversions for leads. Let's jump to the next part, which is offline conversion tracking via Zapier based on Google Sheets. So Google Sheets is, in my opinion, a solution for offline conversion tracking where the entry barrier is so low that nobody can tell me that offline conversion tracking isn't possible to set up. So we have actually set this up for very small companies that didn't spend a lot of money on Google Ads, but we just found it important to give them the tools and the insights to effectively manage their budget. And it makes a big difference. So what do? We basically have a Google Sheets template, and if you like, I can also share this template. So it's a very simple template, but I can also share it with you that you can just make a copy for yourself and don't have to rebuild this. We have a Google Sheets template with the necessary columns for a fully functioning CRM. So yes, HubSpot Pipedrive has far more features, but for our case, like for having offline conversion tracking in Google Ads, it's a fully functioning CRM. We have other columns here that you do not necessarily have to have. So VBride, GBride, we like to have them because we want to be future-proof, and we have campaign and page, but you don't need it. Basically, you just need a status, the date of the conversion, then email, phone is also optional, then a deal value column, and then Google Click ID. This is basically it. And what we do is, as I also showed you earlier, we pass all leads to this Google Sheet and then store them with a status, with the email, in this case also with a phone number, and with the Google Click ID. Because then, if we have, and you see like a living example here, if we then have a change in status, which is like basically the critical moment where we want to trigger an offline conversion. When we have a change in status, we use this as a trigger for our Zap. And this is like basically a very simple Zap. It has a few actions, and I will guide you through them in a second. But it's a very simple Zap that we can use to base offline conversion tracking completely on Google Sheets. So what we have here is we have a trigger, and the trigger is new updated spreadsheet row in Google Sheets. And you can see here in the configuration that we basically look at this particular worksheet. It's the leads worksheet. And then we look at the trigger column, which is the status, which basically means if the status column changes. So if we, for example, change this one here from, it's German here, but from new to qualified, then this Zap gets triggered. And then we have multiple other steps that I will quickly explain to you. So the first step is a filter, which checks if either a Google Click ID or the email is present, because you need either Google Click ID or email to trigger the consecutive actions, like the conversion action. And if you don't have this filter, and I don't know, someone changes the status just as a test, and this is not present, you will just have errors in Zapier, which is annoying. And I always advise to have a filter to ensure that all necessary data for the following actions is present. And this filter helps us to check that. Then second, we have a delay step. And this delay step, we always set it at 24 hours because we want to ensure that all click data is fully processed. So Google has different time frames they tell us that we should take a look at. But basically, it's like if you have a lead that is generated now, and then 1 hour later, your salespeople call the person and they send an offer right away, and the person ideally immediately signs the offer. If you would send the offline conversion then, like 1 hour or 1.5 hours after the click happened, Google has not already processed the click in its systems, so you can't send the offline conversion, and you will probably get an error. This is why we use a delay step of 24 hours. You could use 12 hours. It should be sufficient, but we always are better safe than sorry. So we use 24 hours. And the next part is a path filter. And the path filters check whether a Google Click ID exists. So if it exists, it obviously goes down this path. And if it doesn't exist, it goes down this path. So this is basically the enhanced conversions for leads path, where we just have the email address and where we are able to still try to match the conversion to a campaign, to an ad, to a click. But this is the safe play with the Google Click ID. And in this path, so it's a very simple filter. We basically just check if the Google Click ID exists. And we also do the cross check if the Google Click ID does not exist. So this is not complicated in any sense. And then we have just the offline conversion action, where we send it. In this case, for example, you have the conversion user identifier source. It's GCLID, and then we reference the field from the first step, so from the trigger, so from the Google Sheet. We have the Google Click ID, then the consent is granted. We have, in this particular case, it's a conversion action for qualified lead. So you need 2 zaps for qualified lead and for deal. You could also build multiple other paths, but I don't recommend to do it because then it gets too complicated. I'd like to have the zaps separate. So 1 zap for qualified lead and 1 zap for deal. And then we have a timestamp, and to this timestamp, I just want to give you, it's a little bit of a more technical part, but still I wanted to have this in here for completeness sake. So for the timestamp, you could use this zap meter human now, which is basically the time now, because in your Google Sheet, you don't have the conversion time, like the deal time or when did a conversion become a qualified lead. So you could just use the time the zap is running, but this could lead to double tracking, because if you think about this, when we have the offline conversion triggered and we use zap meter human now as the timestamp, and it's, for example, this date at 10 a.m. 57 minutes, and then why ever somebody changes back the status, changes it again, some human error, it triggers again and it has a new timestamp, then this would lead to a conversion being double tracked. We could prevent it if we set the counting of the conversion action to 1 instead of every. But actually, if you want to be able to send, for example, multiple deals, or multiple offers, then you don't want to have this set to 1. This is why you have to use a different method. And the method we use it's a simple method, but we just use the timestamp when the lead was created, and we add 12 hours to it to prevent time zone issues. So you don't have like a problem where Google says, hey, the conversion happened before the lead was created. And this solution is not perfect because you can't use the conversion by conversion date in Google Ads, although I think it's like a little bit more sophisticated, and you might not necessarily need it. But for us, it's a good balance between all pros and cons, and we decided to go with this because it's easier for us to be able also to send multiple deals, for example, if not only 1 deal happens, but 2 deals based on the same click or based on the same Google Click ID. So yeah, then last up in offline conversion tracking with Google Sheets, I also wanted to show you the action, how it looks with an email as a conversion user identifier source. So here, obviously, we just have the user identifier as the email. We reference it from the Google Sheet. What's important is you could also be tempted to select different conversion user identifier sources here. So in Zapier, you could select here Google Click ID, email, and phone all in the same action. And you might think, hey, Zapier should be smart. And if there's just the email present or just the Google Click ID present, or like in any of that sense, then it should just use the value that is present. But that's not the case, unfortunately. So every value that you select here as a conversion user identifier source has to be set. And this is why we have this separated, so that we don't run into errors, and we keep this, an error-proof setup, basically. Yes, then let's go to the last chapter before the Q&A, which is offline conversion tracking by Zapier based on a CRM. One pre-notice here. So we use Zapier instead of native connectors. HubSpot, for example, has a native connector to Google Ads, where you could also use offline conversion tracking to have more control about how to process the conversions. So for us, it's important to be able to actually say, when do we want to trigger the conversion? How do we want it to be triggered? Which data do we want to use for it, etc., so that we ensure that we have maximum data coverage and also maximum control. Then, what's important if you use a CRM, you need a field in your CRM to store the Google Click ID. We also had it in the Google Sheet, you need a column for it, but obviously also in your CRM, you need it. And HubSpot has a field by default. It's on the contact level, so it's a contact property, Google Ad Click ID, or in your respective language. But in Pipedrive, you have to create it. In Pipedrive, it's basically, I put in the screenshot for you, but it's a data field that you create, and I recommend to only create it for the lead deal object, because in Pipedrive, you usually use the deal or the lead deal object to trigger the conversions in Zapier. And if you have it on the person level, it just complicates things. So in HubSpot, you can use it on the contact level. You could also set it up on the deal level again, but yeah, there are also other like cons. So just stick with the HubSpot standard field, and in Pipedrive, make your life easy and create it on the lead deal object. Then for the actual setup of the Zaps, this is basically the same as with the Google Sheets. And since you have already seen this, you have already like gotten the most important aspects of it. So basically we have a trigger, which is always some sort of CRM update. In this example here, and I will go through some examples afterwards also. In this example here, we have an updated deal stage and Pipedrive trigger. Then we also have our filter again, where we check if either the Google Click ID or the email is present. Then we have the delay step, obviously. And then we have the pass filters again to check whether Google Click ID exists or not, and then routes to the respective conversion actions. In Pipedrive, when we have a qualified lead, I always recommend to have your pipeline set up in a way that a qualified lead is basically registered, or that you can say, hey, this lead has now become a qualified lead when it moves to a different stage. So in this particular case, we always use the updated deal stage trigger. Yeah, here it's an example for a client of ours. It's in German, but it has a stage in his pipeline where it says abgehalten, qualifiziert. So something happened, the deal became qualified, and we use this as a trigger to trigger the qualified lead conversion action in Google Ads. If you use Pipedrive and if you have a deal won, there are basically two standard options most people use. There could be more crazy setups, but I can't cover everything. So the both like standard options are that you either have a stage if the deal is won. So you basically move the deal to a stage, which is deal one or something like this. Or when the deal meets a certain condition, like for example, in Pipedrive, there's a standard feature, which is that you mark the deal as won. And for this, you need different setups in Zapier. So you need different triggers to be used. And if you use the standard Pipedrive won button, you have to use the deal matching filter trigger, because don't ask me why, but there's no trigger in Zapier that says deal one in Pipedrive, although they have this like standard feature where you can just click on one. But if you have this setup, like if you use this one thing in Pipedrive, you need deal matching filter trigger in Zapier. And you can like configure the filter however you like. So basically you can use standard filters. So Pipedrive has a standard filter. In this sense, they have thought about this case, which is all one deals, but you could also create custom filters. So if you have more complex configurations, if you just want deals to be triggered from certain deal types or from certain tags or whatever, you could set up a different filter in Pipedrive, and you can just trigger the Zap based on a deal matching this filter. You just always have to understand that this Zap is triggered when a deal property changes. So for example, I click on the deal is won, and then the deal matches this particular filter. So basically the deal comes into the filter sphere. So this is just what you have to understand if you use this. If you use a stage to mark a deal as one in Pipedrive, it's quite simple. It's basically the same as with the qualified lead. So then you can also use updated deal stage for your deal offline conversion action. So there you don't have to like do any fancy setup. Basically just select the right deal stage, call it something that is like easy to reference, deal one or whatever. But yeah, this is basically it. And then for the last step, let's take a look at HubSpot. So when a Zap triggers from HubSpot deals, so if you move your leads or your deals through your HubSpot pipeline, we basically want to look at this HubSpot standard field, the Google Ad Click ID. This is why we have to iterate through all associated contacts. So this is why the configuration of the HubSpot Zap is a little bit more complex, although it's like pretty simple if you have understood the concept behind it. But we just have a few changes to our Google Sheets or to our Pipedrive actions. So the first is that we look for all associated contacts with the deal. With this find associations in HubSpot action here, because what is returned is that all contacts with their IDs. So we basically get like from the action 3, we either get, if it's just one contact, we just get the ID, like the number of the contact. If it's multiple contacts, we get comma separated numbers of the contact. And from this, we can use the standard Zapier feature, create loop from text. And we create a loop based on the output from step 3, which is either the single number, then it's like no loop, it's just a single iteration. But if you have multiple contacts separated by commas, you can automatically create a loop. And in this loop, basically Zapier just uses the get contact in HubSpot action to use the ID to then pull the Google Click ID and the email, so that you can then in each of these loops, basically Zapier can check, okay, is there a Google Click ID or is there an email? And then the steps afterwards are used as you already know them, to pass either with the Google Click ID to Google Ads or to pass with the email, or you could also use phone, but basically with enhanced conversions for leads. So yeah, this is it. We covered quite a lot, but we're good in time. So let's get to the Q&A. This is just, I have I have one more thing, one more slide. Sorry, it's the one more thing moment. Just maybe I already covered that, but you don't need an additional Google Click ID field on your deal properties in HubSpot if you use this with the find associations and iterate through the contacts. And you also don't need to worry about which contact associated with the deal was the initial lead. So if you have multiple contacts, for example, attached to a deal, you don't have to worry about this. And here also, since we use the close date from HubSpot as the conversion timestamp, even if you count every conversion, and if you have like multiple contacts, we have no double tracking. So also no issues here in that regard. So yeah, then let's get to the Q&A. I think I can't share the questions here. on the screen, but I will just go through them. So maybe for you, how to access this Q&A, because I think there was some like uncertainty about it. You basically have to click here. I will quickly show this to you on the screen. 1 second. So basically, just if you are in Google Meet currently, at the top, at the bottom right, click on these triangle, square, and circle, and then I hope you can click there on Q&A or some sort of this, or in your language, and then you can access the Q&A, and then I can also see your questions, because the chat doesn't work. Next time we will do better with the chat. Yeah. So then we have a few questions. One is, where does the hashing happen? So I think the question references to the enhanced conversions for leads. So basically, if you use the Google Tag Manager, basically Google takes care of the hashing themselves. You could also hash it yourself, but I don't like to do this because I think it just complicates stuff. But basically, Google takes care of the hashing themselves, which is, yeah, the I think SH8 A256, so a quite secure algorithm that they use. I think this is quite good. So let's keep this question as answered. Then, if there's no Google Click ID and it has to follow the email path, doesn't it need to be hashed in the Google Sheet to prevent storing PII? Like, if you want to store PII or not in the Google Sheet, it totally depends on what do you have in your data privacy, like in the data privacy privacy policy, or how you handle this internally. So in our particular case, we have contracts with the clients, and we also have a transparent privacy policy about it. And in that regard, we don't have a problem here. But just if anybody has like an issue with this storing email addresses, storing phones, etc., you don't have to do it. So we also have clients that are very data sensitive, very data protective. They just use the Google Click ID. So they just use the Google Click ID. It's a pseudonymized parameter where you don't have any personally identifiable information. This is also a safe way to go. So you don't have to use enhanced conversions for leads. I think it's good to use to be future-proof. Also, when the Google Click ID is not present, when somebody uses, for example, advanced privacy modes and browsers that automatically skip the Google Click ID parameter from the URL. But basically, you're totally free to use just the Google Click ID if you feel uncomfortable with enhanced conversions for leads. So then, can you share the doc with us, please? Yes, of course, 100%. I will do it afterwards. Then next question, do you prefer to use offline tracking even if you have a success page? How to work with business with conversion 6 months after the click? How will be algorithm without the conversion during the first 6 months? So I will answer the second question first. Very important. You just have 90 days after the click to import an offline conversion action. So if your sales cycle means that you won't get a qualified lead or get the lead qualified within 90 days, it doesn't make sense for you. I would say if a lead qualifies within 90 days, but the deal closes after 6 months, still use what's possible, still use the qualified leads action, because this still gives you more transparency. But yeah, basically 90 days is your time frame. After the click happened, then time is running. Then do you prefer to use offline tracking even if you have a success page? I don't quite get the question, because I think it doesn't have to do anything with each other. So basically, offline conversion tracking, how we use it and how you should also use it, means that you add more context after your lead was generated on the website. So basically all the things that happen offline, if you are in contact like via phone, or if you are in contact via email, or however your sales process takes place, all this is invisible to Google Ads basically, and you want to shine light on it and basically make this more transparent in your campaigns, that you can understand, okay, where was a website lead generated, but were qualified leads generated, where were deals generated, and also of course the revenue that is associated with the deals. But yeah, basically this I think doesn't have to do anything with using a success page or something like that. But if you feel like the question, I didn't understand the question right, just please ask it again, and I will try to cover it as best as possible. Where can you add the variable configuration for the query in the conversion linker in GTM? You can just go to the Google Tag Manager. I will quickly pull it up for you. And basically, you have the conversion linker tag there. Give me one sec. So this is a Google Tag Manager instance, and here's the conversion linker tag. And then you just have this option, linker options, enable linking on all page URLs. I hope this is what you meant, but this, you just have to activate this one, and then you're good to go. Then the Google Click ID is passed on with every page and every URL that somebody accesses if you have multiple pages on a website that are accessed. Yeah. The next question is there a difference using the Google Ads tag or GA4 tag? So basically everything we covered is just for Google Ads. It's also completely based on using Google Ads tags. So if you're thinking about the Google Ads user provided data event, so you could of course also use GA4 and send the enhanced conversion data to GA4. But to be honest with you, we didn't test if it works with enhanced conversion for leads then. And since using the standard Google Ads conversion tracking tags with user provided data didn't work with the import based on email address or based on phone, I highly suspect that it doesn't work with the GA4 tag. So I strongly recommend to just use it as I showed with the Google Ads user provided data event, because then I can at least guarantee you, if you set it up correctly, as I showed today, that it works, because we have it tested across dozens of accounts, and yeah, it definitely works. Then if HubSpot is linked with Google Ads, is this process of offline conversion tracking made easier in any way, or do we still have to do a Zapier setup no matter what? So as I said earlier about the HubSpot stuff, you can of course also use the native integration. The problem for me is always, for example, in HubSpot. In HubSpot, you're just you're stuck with lifecycle updates. So if a lifecycle stage updates. So in HubSpot, you can just trigger an action for Google Ads, and it's the same also with offline conversions or server-side conversions for LinkedIn and for Meta, I think also, that you have to have a lifecycle stage update. And the problem is, like when we look, for example, at clients, they actually didn't really use these life cycle stages. If you use them and it makes sense for you, then you can use the native integration. But we just wanted to have like a simple, straightforward setup where we can easily say, okay, if a deal moves to this stage, then we want to trigger the conversion action. Then we also want to be able to send with Google Click ID and also send with email address or phone with enhanced conversions for leads. This is, to my knowledge, now also possible from the native HubSpot integration, but it wasn't possible until I think a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago. But still, like the problem is always that these native integrations, they're easy to set up, but they come with pitfalls and shortcomings. And if you want to like be able to actually understand exactly when you're sending and what you're sending, then it's better to go with Zapier, because then you have maximum control. I hope this answers the question. Then last question I have for the moment is, what is the real difference between GCLID and GBraid? So basically, GCLID and GBraid are both click identifiers. The GBraid and also VBraid, so WBraid, just came into place after the iOS 14 update. Basically, Google had to come up with new click identifiers. I can't tell you exactly how they are different, like in a sense of why Google still has those identifiers and they are okay with iOS 14 and the versions that came after iOS 14, and GCLID is not. But basically, this is the background of it. And like in practice, the problem is that if you want to use offline conversion tracking, you could only use GBraid or WBraid as a parameter for import if you use the Google Ads API. And if you know, like, of course, also Zapier basically is an interface on top of the Google Ads API, but in Zapier and also like in the other tools, you can't use GBraid and VBraid to import offline conversion actions. So you need the Google Click ID. And also, like, if you have heavy iPhone traffic, it does not necessarily mean that there won't be any Google Click IDs. So there could still be a lot of Google Click IDs. And we have a client where we also have a lot of mobile traffic. And we basically have generated, I don't know, 10,000 or even more leads over the last month. And I just saw around, I think, 3 or 4% of those leads actually having no Google Click ID, but just GBraid or WBraid. So I think it's still Google Click ID is the most important click identifier, and it's also the one that we need if we want to actually import conversions to Google Ads. And then the other question is, if a customer has clicked on multiple ads, which Google Click ID do we need to send? Basically, it doesn't matter. So you should always just send the latest one, because then you have more time. So basically, if the customer has clicked on the 1st of April and then on the 30th of April, if you use the click ID from the 30th of April, you have, like, from that day on 90 days to import back any offline conversion actions. This is a pro for you. But besides that, actually, just so you can't use multiple Google Click IDs, I would just always recommend to use the latest one. And this is like totally fine. Then you're good to go. And Google will, in the platform, still attribute, like, if there are multiple touch points that has led to this conversion, Google will attribute it anyway between the different campaigns and ads, and will split it if it's necessary, and if it feels like, based on the attribution, that they will do it. But yeah, basically, use the latest one and don't stress out about it too much. Cool. So no more questions here in the Q&A. I hope that all questions were answered. Then the last thing I want to show you is, if you have the feeling that you have some problems around Google Ads, conversion tracking, or whatever, and you want us to work for you and to support you, we support either via full service Google Ads management or consulting. So we don't just work with clients that we help to generate more leads over Google Ads and to close more deals, but we also support other agencies or freelancers in consulting or coaching. So we are also totally up for that. If you want us to work for you, then either reach out to me on LinkedIn. You probably have come to this workshop anyway because you follow me on LinkedIn. Send me an email or schedule an intro call from the link you see here. And yeah, that's it basically from my side. We are a Google Premium Partner 2024. So we are in the top 3% of Google Ads agencies in Germany, which is cool. I think I'm very happy to receive this. But that's it for today. We are quite on time. So I wish you all a great day. Thanks so much for taking the time today. If you liked this presentation, when I share the recording afterwards on YouTube and whatever, very happy about a comment, some sort of feedback. Everything what can we do better, what can we do to improve, how have you liked the session. But yeah, that's it. That's a wrap for today. I wish you all the best and have a great day, and see you.